Okay, so we're going to be dividing fractions. Dividing fractions. Here are some important steps. The first step is whenever you have a whole number, put a 1 under it. So put a 1 under a whole number. So for example, if you have 9, you just put a 1 under it. 9 over 1. Step 2 is always change mixed numbers to fractions. Change mixed numbers into fractions. So for example, if you have 2 1/3, that's the same thing as, let's see, 3 times 2 is 6 plus 1 is 7. Okay, don't write this, but our next step is going to be multiply the reciprocal. In other words, we're going to change a fraction and then divide by a fraction into fraction times reciprocal. It's also known as freeze it, change it, and flip it. Our third step is to freeze, change, and flip. Freeze, change, and flip. So in other words, you're going to have a fraction, then you're going to change the times, and you're going to flip the other fraction. So freeze, change, flip. And of course, the last step is to reduce before multiplying. Reduce before multiplying. So I'm just going to kind of box that in. And these are the 4 steps that you need to follow. Okay, we're going to do 6 examples. I'm going to go down my page and come back up to the top and go down. Okay, here's our first problem. 4/9 divided by 2/3. So I'm going to go through my steps now. The first step is if you see any whole numbers, put a 1 under it. There is no whole number, so that's out. Step number 2, change any mixed numbers to fractions. I don't see any mixed numbers, so we're good there. Step 3 is freeze, change, and flip. Okay, what does that mean? That means we freeze this fraction. We keep it the same. Now I'm going to write underneath this. Then we change this divide to times. So freeze a fraction, change to times. So that's a times. And then flip the second fraction. Flip this one. So this would, instead of 2/3, it's 3/2. There's a word for that. We call it reciprocal. Okay, so now that I'm done, now I need to just reduce before any multiplying. So notice what we did. We changed it from a division problem into an adding problem. I'm sorry, multiply problem. What am I saying? So we changed it from divide to multiply. Let's see if I can reduce. I have 2 and 4. 2 goes in here once, and 2 goes into 4 twice. Hey, I have 3 and 9. 3 will go into both of those. 3 goes in here once. 3 goes into 9 3 times. So my answer is 2 times 1 and 3 times 1 on the bottom. So the key here is freeze it, change it, and flip it. That's after you have fractions. Freeze, change, flip. Okay, number 2, I have 12 divided by 4/9. I'm just going to write down below. So we have 12, and hey, there's a whole number. So you should go ahead and put a 1 under it. And so I have, that's a whole number. That's a fraction. I need to freeze, change, and flip. Freeze this one, change this to times, and flip the second one. So instead of 4/9, it's 9/4. Freeze, change, and flip. And that word is called reciprocal. So let's see, I have 4 into 12. 4 goes into 12. 3 times, and that's all reducing I can do. 3 times 9 is 27. 1 times 1 is 1. The answer is 27. So remember, freeze, change, and flip. Number 3, this time we have a mixed number divided by a fraction. So our first step is to change a mixed number to a fraction. So this is 5 times 1 plus 4. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 4 is 9. Okay, so that takes care of that. So now I freeze it, change it, and flip this. Do the reciprocal. So now I start reducing. 5 goes into 10 twice. 3 goes into 9 3 times. So now I'm left with 3 times 2 on the top and 1 times 1 on the bottom. So my answer is 6. Number 4, we have 6 divided by 3.5. So I'm going to write it down below here. So I have 6, and I'm going to put a 1 under it. It's a whole number. And so I'm going to freeze it, change it, and flip this. But wait, I can't flip it till I make it into a fraction. So if I was to make that into a fraction, 3 1/2, that's the same thing as 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. That's 7/2. So now what I'm going to do is flip this. And when you flip it good. Okay, so I'm going to flip this, so it's now going to be 2 over 7. Right? Because it's 7/2. Now I flip it. Now it's 2 over 7. Okay, so now I see if I can reduce anything. I cannot. Bummer. So I'll just go ahead and multiply straight across. 6 times 2 is 12. 1 times 7 is 7. Hey, wait a minute. That's a improper fraction. Excuse me a minute. So let's see. 7 goes into 12 once with 5 left over. See, 7 times 1 is 7, plus 5 makes 12. Okay, number 5, we have 10.5 divided by 7. So we have this improper. We're going to have to make that, I'm sorry, we have a mix. We have to make it into improper. So let's see, 2 times 10 is 20 plus 1. Okay, so I'm going to freeze this. I'm going to change this divide to times. And I'm going to flip this second one. Well, flip it, there's nothing there. So, you know what? I need to put a 1 under it. And now I can flip it. So it's going to be 1 over 7. So now I reduce. I have 7 into 21. Goes in there 3 times. And that's all I have. 3 times 1 is 3. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 goes into 3 once with 1 left over. So you don't want to leave your answers improper. Okay, just want to point out that so far, we have one more to do, but so far you have an example of each type. Notice here we have a fraction divided by a fraction. Number 2, we had a whole number divided by a fraction. Number 3, we had a mixed number divided by a fraction. Number 4, we have a whole number divided by a mixed number. And number 5, we had a mixed number divided by a whole number. This last example is a mixed number divided by a mixed number. So our first step is we have to make this into fractions. So this one right here, that's, put this down below here, that's 7 times 3 plus 3. So that's going to be 21 plus 3, 21, 22, 23, 24. I'm going to change this to times. And then now I'm going to have to make this to a improper fraction. So let's see. 14, I'll put it over here to the side. 14 times 1 plus 13. So 14 plus 13 is 27. So that is what I'm going to flip. So if I flip that, 14 goes on the top, 27 on the bottom. Okay, so we're freezing it, we changed it, and we flipped it. Of course, we had to make these in an improper first. So I'm doing a lot of this in my head. Next, we'll reduce. We have 7 into 14. 7 goes to 14 twice. Let's see, 24 and 27. Can you think of a number that goes into both of these? Common factor? That would be 3. 3 goes into 24 8 times. 3 goes into 27 9 times. So now I have 8 times 2, 16, over 1 times 9, that's 9. Now I'll reduce that. 9 goes into 16 once, and 7 left over. Is that right? Because 9 and 7 makes 16? Yeah.